Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Present Word Sunday School lesson. And this is the second in the series, Lesson 2. Today we're going to talk about why are you afraid? And of course, you might immediately respond, I'm not scared. Well, that might be true. But at some point in your life, you've been afraid. And that's what our story is about, the scriptures. I want you to pay strict attention to the three gospels, or the gospels, the parallel gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And we want you also to hopefully have read the scriptures, the daily scriptures that they give you Monday through Saturday. Our verse to remember, he said to them, why are you afraid? Why are you scared? You, he said, and this is Jesus talking to his disciples on the boat after they had awakened him from sleep in the midst of a storm. He then got up and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was calm, a lot of calm. What situations in life today may make you, as a Christian, reluctant, or as someone who may not claim to be a Christian, reluctant or an impulsive follower? An impulsive follower is someone who follows without thinking. What situations in life today may make you really reluctant to follow Jesus? How can the symbol of Jesus rescuing the disciples from overwhelming chaos, which is what was occurring on the boat in our story when you read the scriptures, how can that picture of him rescuing the disciples, calming the sea, give you hope today, give us hope today? And finally, when fear and pain washes over us and threaten us with disaster, how can God's soothing presence with us, even in the depths of life, give us daily strength? We're going to go through our lesson, and we're going to first take a look at some questions that we've composed, and these questions are found on our website, Utqiagvikpc.com, Utqiagvikpc.com, under events. And under events, you will see an open Bible. And if you follow that open Bible, it'll take you right to our Sunday school lesson and all the materials you need in order to participate in this lesson. On there is a video about our subject matter, as well as the scriptures contained from Monday through Saturday. Here they are. They are already written out. All you have to do is download them. And then there's a copy of the actual lesson itself, along with a series of questions on a PowerPoint presentation. We're going to go over those questions as part of our lesson for today. Where is the storm found with the disciples? And we can see right here, when we start off, the storm is found both external and internal. To be sure, the storm is outside on the lake, but the storm is also in the hearts of the disciples. And that's how you feel when you're fearful. The fear is both external, but it's also internal. And nothing is worse than the fear that your life is about to come to an end. Why were the fishermen accustomed to storms, fearful for their life? This was a bad storm. This was not your normal storm. All three of the writers note that the waters were so rough that the disciples, who were fishermen, thought they were going to drown. They waited to the last minute. Jesus was sleeping through all of this, and they woke him up because they feared for their life. What is the sea? And this was not really a sea. It was a large lake in Galilee. What was it a symbol of? Of according to our lesson, it was a symbol of the inner and the outer turmoil and God's power in Jesus over both the earth's physical elements and the human reactions to the physical elements. That outer turmoil and inner turmoil can take hold of our life and toss us and turn us in so many ways. We need the presence and the power that's found in the coming source of Jesus Christ in our life to give us the peace, to give us the hope, to give us what we need. Where is a similar story? The lesson talks about a similar story to the one about Jesus on the sea. And of course, that similar story is the story of Jonah. A storm signifies a lack of faith, and Jonah, as you know, was swallowed up by a whale in the midst of a storm. That, God's servants who think that God is not able, and Jonah certainly didn't believe God was able because he did not want to go to Nineveh, where God had told him to go and prophesy to the people there that they were going to be destroyed. He didn't want to do that. He wanted them to be destroyed. So when we think that God is not able to guide the missions that he put us on, somehow or another, we try to avoid it. Well, very similar to the outer and the inner turmoil that the disciples were feeling as they were on the boat in the midst of a storm. We all have experienced storms in our life. But what else threatens to destroy creation? And one of the things that threatens to destroy creation is the unprecedented danger that we face from global warming. A lot of people don't even believe it exists, but it threatens to destroy the good creation of our planet if we don't do something about it. The lesson also talked about something called decreation or uncreation. What is that? It's so bad that some environmentalists, we're talking about global warming, and theologians call it decreation or uncreation. That means somehow or another the world is going to get undone. God is the creator, and we're going to destroy his creation. Continuing with our questions on the next page, page 7, when you go to the PowerPoint that's located on Utqiagvikpc.com, you'll see question number 7, and it says, do you believe that we are trustees of the earth? Well, yes, I do. Why? Because I think that the earth was given to us to enjoy, but not to exploit, not to use, not to abuse. Even in doing so, we may destroy the lives of those who come after us. And do we have a responsibility to them? I think so. I think that's part of our stewardship, is to be responsible for people who come after us. And we're not just talking about our children or our children's children. We're talking about generations to follow us. We continue now in the context of fear. Question 8, name 3 situations that cause you to be afraid, reluctant, or uncertain. I'm going to let you decide what those situations may be for yourself. Clearly, with the violence that's going on in the world, the coronavirus, and as well as living sometimes in unsafe situations might cause you to be uncertain or fearful or reluctant, but God can handle those as well. The situation that the disciples was in certainly caused them to be uncertain or unsure about their own life, even in the presence of Jesus. But I don't think that at the time they knew Jesus had power, but they didn't realize that he had power over the elements. They were desperate. they didn't care who could save them at that point. And of course, they were fortunate that Jesus was on board. But Jesus admonished them by saying, you have little faith. How many of the Gospels is found in the story of the disciples caught in a storm on the lake? And of course, we know that all three Gospel accounts of the storm on the lake tell different versions. Matthew's versions, for example, talks about, follows a story about people who are not sure they want to be fully committed to Jesus' mission. And then they indicate, or a scribe declares that he isn't willing to follow Jesus anywhere, but of course, Jesus knew that was not true. He then indicates that the questioner only wants to be a sunshine follower. What is a sunshine follower? Well, a sunshine follower is somebody who's willing to follow Jesus when things are going well, when things are going good. Are you a sunshine follower? When things get tough, when the going get tough, somehow or another, you drop away. That's not what a true Christian is all about. Christian would do. We know life is going to be tough, but you have to answer the question for yourself. Which are you? Are you a sunshine follower or are you not? How does the three Gospels use the story of the disciples in a storm to sum up why we might turn away from Jesus? And that's question number 10. And we take a look at it. The three Gospel accounts indicate some reasons why people run away from Jesus. One, they're reluctant to follow him immediately. Two, they have a fear for their own safety. And of course, three, their lack of faith in Jesus' power to protect them from the storms of life. When you take a look at all three of these indications as reasons why people turn away from Jesus, do you find yourself being caught in any one of these? These and other situations often make it difficult for some believers to follow him being Jesus. Even though you really want to, you can't and you don't. Question number 11. Why were the disciples so amazed that Jesus could rebuke the wind and sea? They were primarily amazed because that was the preview of God. They didn't think a human being had that kind of authority or that kind of power. It is God who controls the order of creation. In fact, the fact that Jesus can rebuke the sea and the wind during the storm on the lake amazed the disciples because they know that this power resides with God. But truly, he proved to them that he was God in three persons, a member of the Trinity. Question number 12. What words did Jesus use in Mark to rebuke the wind and the sea? Well, that famous song, Peace Be Still, says it all. Those were the words that he woke up, and this is in the book of Mark, he woke up and he rebuked the wind and the sea by three words. He said, peace, be still, and there was a dead calm. What a miracle. How miraculous. Question 13. How is the church in our lives compared to a boat on the sea of life? Well, biblical literature and Christian art, the imagery of the storm of sea is carried further when the boat becomes a symbol of the church and the turmoil it must constantly face. A boat is a symbol of the church, and life can be rocky and stormy. But God is always in that boat with us. We just have to realize that and acknowledge him. And finally, we take a look at the last question. What are some of the storms of contemporary life? Well, there are many. People struggle to make a living when their skills are outmoded, businesses close, industries move to foreign markets. Personal injury makes it impossible to keep a job. Numerous natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and wildfires have destroyed whole cities in California and other states. On top of all these calamities, the number of shootings and killings, often motivated by racial hatred, have made life in many places frightening and almost unbearable. You just don't want to live there. As these words are written, or as we are talking about these words, we're facing the frightening coronavirus still, even though a number of us have gotten vaccinated against it. There are people who are still reluctant. We don't know exactly when this epidemic is going to end, and that brings about a lot of anxiety and fear. And then there are personal tragedies that seem even more dangerous. Suffering and deaths caused by overdoses of opiates and alcohol and abuse. They've escalated, often leaving families divided and devastated. Such a family disease most of these drug addictions are. And then there's this thing called vaping, which is taking over our teenagers and young people, causing severe health crisis and death among young people, and depression in young persons. Frequently, they wind up taking their own life. Many individuals have to deal with the physical and mental problems as caregivers for family and friends who have overwhelming difficulties. Oh yes, there's a lot to be fearful of, but God is still there, even in the midst of our fears, to pronounce, peace, be still, peace be still. You cast me into the deep, says the psalmist, into the heart of the seas, and the flood surrounded me. All your waves and your billows passed over me. Then I said, I am driven from your sight. But you brought up my life from the pit of despair, O Lord my God. As my life was ebbing away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you. When fear and pain wash over us and threaten us with disaster, God's coming presence can be there to give us hope, to give us new life, and to give us strength. That's the Sunday school lesson for this week. You stay positive.